It kind of does remind me when we start talking like specifics of Plato's Republic.
Hmm.
It's going back way, way back in that temporal scale.
Yeah, it is. Tis true. And I enjoy talking about the Republic, even though it's wild.
I do too.
But yeah. The city is the man. The man is the city.
Yeah. There is no difference, sir.
There is no difference, and you're gonna be a fucking bronze, and you're gonna suck my dick and enjoy it. There you go. Enjoy.
Yeah,
I am the philosopher king.
exactly. Um, I want to actually, I should stop this and fix the aspect ratio. I'm wondering why the resolution was so poor in the recording I did last time. But I mean, we're live now, so I'll remember
Live.
to fix it next time. But the resolution looks good on my screen on OBS, but it's just I don't know.
Well, it has to be perfect, or you're worthless. So go ahead and tell
Exactly.
yourself that.
Yep.
Exactly. That's
I'll
the
tell
way to
myself
really
that,
solve a
and
problem.
I'll tell everyone it was you that forced me to
Yeah.
be perfect.
Oh shit, yeah, yeah, and throw some moral self-injury and attack on yourself, just shitloads of it if you want to. Have some guilt for a few
Pile,
days.
I love to
Yeah,
pile it on. Yeah,
I do too. It's so smart. It's so helpful.
yeah, it's good for your health.
Good, great for your health. Great, fantastic.
So we're just getting going with the live stream here. We'll see who shows up to talk meta ethics today.
How did yesterday go? I left pretty early. Did you guys manage to achieve anything exciting?
Um, yeah, we changed the entire world and solved hunger and told no
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
that's not bad.
Yeah,
Turn
Not bad.
lead to gold. Lead to gold.
Yeah,
That was a new one.
exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was mostly a really long form dialectic between three speakers, two atheists and one Catholic. And a lot of it was just about the existence of God, arguing justifications. Did
Anything particularly new or exciting on that front?
nope, nope, nothing new, never is. Nope.
Yeah, I stopped arguing about religion with people. Like I just don't do that anymore. There's so many more important things.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, I find good moral utility, and I just good by way of my moral quest to spend time talking with people about their God beliefs. I'm primarily interested in figuring out whether they claim to still be open to update on their God beliefs and their religious claims and their religious phenomenological presentations, their claims about what they've experienced. So I think it's, everybody is worth my moral attention, my moral care.
Um,
And if I come into contact with people who show me that they might be suffering from a dogmatism, I'm happy to go there and try to at least get them to realize that even though
yes.
they feel as though they are closed to update, that they have a true dogma, that the human system doesn't allow for that. It's not part of our nature. So they are in fact open to update, and they should believe that if they are a man, woman, or whatever of science.
Um, it kind of reminds me. Have you seen Professor Dave's video on debunking creationism? And it like kind of just goes through all of the stages, like flat Earth geocentrism, young Earth creationism, gap creationism. It just like all of like I guess just epistemological like craziness until it gets to like the one spot where it goes to deistic evolutionism or deistic
Ah,
evolution. where
Right.
it's just like you go from the Earth is flat because the Bible says so, this like extremely dogmatic, to this philosophical position where it's like I am a-okay with people believing that with theistic evolution or deistic evolution.
Yeah, I mean, deism doesn't tend to be partnered with any kind of like dangerous ethical commandments. So that's usually where I have a problem as a moral well-beingist. Like, is a religion promoting any kind of anti-well-being behavior?
Yes.
That's what I'm most interested in crushing. Those ideas.
Same.
So, and then if someone has a like a fallibilist, benign, like Jesus was a hippie man and said love everyone, that's what we should be doing.
Yes.
my like desire to crush that epistemic quibbling that I have with them. Like, I don't think Jesus is God. They might think Jesus is God, but like, am I worried as a moral well-beingist who has that hippie Jesus belief and they're trying to enact that in their life? No, not at all. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ping you again, just the Professor Dave video?
Yeah.
Just to, yeah. I think it's really, really good.
Professor Dave's pretty fun.
Oh, very, very important figure. We need more, like, just science communicators out there.
Yeah.
I think he can go slightly overboard reductive with some of his comments, but like it's like 90% great, 10% like could cut that back a little.
He in my opinion, like, I promote the good faith helpful dialectic, and I've worked with Dave. I like Dave, and he would be orders of magnitude more effective if he found a better balance of helpfulness in how he treats those that hold ideas that he detests. Now, I understand that, like, algorithmically and like there are some other reasons why that makes his work potent to some people, but and I've told him this before, like, I want to see him promote a higher resolution ethic when he's in the dialectic, and that it's not that he goes too far and like bullies people all the time, but there is still some bullying in his veins that I think is bad and wrongful. So I think he should work on some of that and understand the wisdom in moving in the direction of more helpfulness in the dialectic. But in saying that, that's my big critique of Dave. Otherwise, I really, really like his work, and I really, really think he's a brilliant guy. So
That guy, I think he gets a little bit of a pass because when you consider the quality of charlatans he's usually going after, with some of these people, you really can't be polite. Like these are just like actual scum. Like, and you need someone to just take the gloves and just go like ba-bam.
Yeah, I mean, I just disagree with that. I am born of I'm cut from the Daryl Davis cloth. If Daryl Davis can maintain a posture of good faith and helpfulness while communicating with KKK members and disrobing them by way of the good faith helpful dialectic, then Professor Dave should be able to do the same. It doesn't matter in my worldview, in my moral quest, it doesn't matter how much you might detest the ideas and straight out stupidity that you are faced with in someone you just disagree wholeheartly with. I think the good thing to do is to treat them with moral care and care about their well-being. The kind of people that just say, like, if I disagree with someone enough, then I wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire type of attitude. That's moral immaturity. That's like they haven't grown out of that from a moral well-beingist perspective, and from what I would call wisdom, which is grounded in the 6 Pangburn virtues and maxims. I would say they are lacking a lot of wisdom if they're behaving that way. So there's a lot of growth there. And that's not to say you can't attack and go after people's ideas and tear them to shreds, tear their ideas to shreds. But I think once you start attacking people, you become a tyrant.
And that's what Professor Dave does, like,
Yeah.
pretty often.
The worst of his stuff, like the majority of Professor Dave's work is in his teaching videos. He's got, hundreds of thousands of hours of great teaching content, and that's done in a really good faith, helpful way. And some of his discussions he's had are with people he disagrees with aren't nasty and bullish, but some of them are. So I just think if he's looking at somewhere to prove ethically in his life, he should look there. But.
He's like very intolerant of just like really bad and I guess intolerant ideas. I feel like it's kind of a paradox of tolerance kind of thing, where you can't allow this stuff to grow. It needs to be shamed. That's probably a lot of the perspective that he's coming from.
Yeah, so there's a difference between shaming and attacking ideas and shaming and attacking people who hold the ideas. It's a mistake to think that people are their ideas. I think that's a fundamental mistake a lot of people make. Like their ethical view, their moral quest, their moral metrics, and how they apply them to individuals. They're like holding on to them and giving them their moral consideration so long as they don't currently believe the wrong thing. It's just, ideas change like the wind, and we are all always open to update based on what our best cognitive science modeling shows us. So we should treat people as though they are open to update. And it's only rational. It's only rational to engage with someone in a fruitful way, demonstrably fruitful way, if you really do care about squashing those bad ideas. Because we can demonstrate, again, through major, wide-sweeping studies in psychology, that there are more effective methods of communication that lead to more openness and less cognitive rigidity in the dialectic. So someone who is saying, let's say, I want to squash these bad ideas from the world, and then they're acting like a bully in the dialectic, they're actually irrational to their own purposes. If they claim to be a person who believes in science.
It kind of reminds me of how like being mean and like just showing evidence to like a cult member, like puts them further into the cult. It like puts them further into that rigidity. Yeah, I absolutely see your perspective. I see that.
Well, yeah, like Daryl Davis is the finest example, because it's counterintuitive, right, for a black man to go into the KKK rallies and to speak to Grand Wizards in a good faith, helpful way, where a lot of people are calling him like an Uncle Tom or a piece of shit for doing this. And really, Daryl Davis is the one with the Superman cape on doing this, and the demonstration at the, as this process goes on, is the disrobing of KKK leaders and Grand Wizards and other members by way of Daryl Davis, demonstrating to them by his behavior something contrary to their fundamental belief that just simply can't be denied. And it's my opinion that must be done through the good faith, helpful dialectic. Those, if you don't have at least those minimum requirements, your chances of changing minds, your chances of bearing fruit in the dialectic, in conversation, in relationships, very very low chances of that happening.
Could I add something, Trev?
Yeah.
Yeah, just that, if we want a better world, we have to actively be part of it, even with our own faults, trying to navigate those the best we can. It's like the thing of not wanting more suffering in the world and just understanding that we have to be an active part of that. How would you want to be talked to if you had a really, fundamental bad idea within you and someone was trying to help you out of it? Or if you do want a fruitful dialogue, like obviously meeting the person genuinely where they are, but also, like having your own standards and your own information, but wanting just basically a better society, if you would. I don't know if that.
Yeah. One example. Yeah, one example I would give too, Brett, is I'm just yes-anding what you said. What you said is all great. A lot of people will point to someone like Richard Dawkins, who has changed millions of minds by way of a more firebrand passion in the way he argues against religion, argues against creationism. But if you watch closely and listen closely and study Richard Dawkins in his dialogues with individuals, he is targeting the ideas. Very, very rarely in a dialectic will he target the individual he's having a conversation with and call them a name or try to bully them. He will bully their ideas. But this is what I'm talking about. The magic of Richard Dawkins is in the fact that he maintains, and nobody's perfect, but he maintains the good faith, helpful dialectic while engaging with people who hold ideas that he detests. And he practices a high level of patience. But the cool thing about Richard is that he's good faith, helpful, very often maintains a good level of patience, but he doesn't lose the fire of his passion in that. Because a lot of people are worried when I promote the good faith, helpful dialectic, a straw man of that would be, oh, so you want to just rob the passion out of the dialectic. It's like, no. That, like, a perfect example is Jordan Peterson versus Matt Dillahunty on our stage. It was hard to even breathe in that room. There was so much heat and passion on that stage. But they maintained a good faith, helpful dialectic through the entirety of the conversation. That's why it's my favorite conversation in history. And Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson very much the same. And I've seen many conversations. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example, is a master at this. He's able to maintain a good faith, helpful dialectic with people who he really fucking disagrees with when he's sitting down in a disagreeable setting or a disagreeable podcast or something like that. And I find that to be virtuous. And we are talking about meta-ethics today. What ultimately, where all of these feelings of value ultimately comes from. And something I wanted to point out is that almost all human beings, because people often ask, like, well, why is well-being your fundamental moral metric? And by well-being, I mean physical, mental, and social health. Well, it's born of this fundamental presupposition. This is where it starts, that health is better than sickness. Moving towards health is better. It feels better sentimentally, based on my sentiments in a Humean sense. Moving towards health instead of sickness. Almost every single human being that has ever lived of sound mind is going to agree that health is better than sickness. And, why do they believe that? Well, it doesn't take much experience in illness or sickness to realize that this is a less desirable direction. And that's important. That shouldn't be discounted, because one important thing about building your own ethical theory is to make sure we are starting on a realist foot, that we are taking into consideration what has been demonstrated to us by way of reality. And our health and also our capacity for sickness is one of those things that is seemingly unavoidable. It's something we all confront. So if people do agree that health is preferential to sickness, and that as axiomatically that it's better to pursue health instead of sickness, then we build a system that encompasses what it means to be healthy. And that is what the well-being concept is. Well-being covers physical, mental, and social health. Social health being the part of this triangle that I think has not been given its due seriousness throughout the history of ethics and philosophy. But funnily enough, it was something that Aristotle very much underlined. He understood that we were not monoliths, separate from other people. Our health depends on them. And not just in the intersubjective sense, but in the sense of resource collecting, safety, and all these other things. So I wanted to outline basically how my structure works, because there's always a question like, well, what axiom is this based on? Where's the fundamental presupposition? I gave it here, and the question always is, where is that born out of? Where does that come from? Well, it's my belief. 1 second, honey. I got to grab my son out of the shower. But it's my belief that all of our values, anything we value, is simply born of how we feel about those value propositions, how we feel about the world as we confront it. Christians are doing the same, Muslims, Hindus, atheists. Fundamentally, we are all accepting these fundamental axioms and all the principles born of them because we feel they are good. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that reminds me, I don't know if y'all ever seen this interview with Isaac Asimov, where he was hit with the old famous adage of if there's no God, then everything is permissible. And he starts off by saying that assumes that humans don't have anything to say about that. That assumes that humans don't have any will to impose on the subject. And I think that perfectly articulates it.
Technically,
yes.
He's right. It is. Everything is permissible only insofar that we permit it.
Right.
Other than us, there isn't anything stopping anyone from doing anything other than the will of other people. That's why this objective morality argument always stumped me, because, why is that not good enough? That there are other people who don't want you to do something? Why does it have to be something higher than that?
Yeah, it's like, I will murder as many people as I want. Yeah, I'm allowed to do anything. And I want to murder exactly 0 people.
I've heard that one.
Generally people think that as well. It reminds have you ever heard of John Rawls, Rawlsian consensus, overlapping consensus? I'll just drop the Wikipedia link into the chat here. But generally people's sense of morality is overlapped, and society can liberal societies can form over that.
What's funny is you have instances where people aren't present. If there's a consensus of people that you ask, do you permit X? if we're sitting here in a room right now, and I just ask everyone here, let's say someone getting a baby getting beat against the wall, would you, if you've seen this, would you permit it? And let's just assume that everyone in this room would say that they would not permit this, that they would take some action. If we say that God is always present, then why does sometimes these things happen and sometimes it doesn't? It seems like the only thing that's changing is sometimes the people that would not permit it are present, and sometimes they're not present. So, but if God's present always, then he's not stopping it. These things are happening. So I don't understand the distinction of if you would expect that a God does not permit this, then you would expect that the action does not happen, but the action does happen.
Blah, blah, blah. God is mysterious, right?
Right. Well, they cash it out, I think, as, well, God permits it physically or literally to happen, but there will be consequences for, well, what the hell does that have to do with permit? Like, he's still allowing it to go forward, right? So the argument of permissibility always seemed ridiculous to me. But.
Well, because it's mostly cope. That's why. It's like you're not really defending anything. It's one of those things you have to say to make the idea make sense.
Sure.
Rather than just conceding, no, God isn't all good, or he isn't all one of those three things, and then just go with that. You'd think that'd be the tactically sensible thing to do, just give up one of those virtues to make the idea a little bit more coherent?
What's up, y'all? Are we having another God debate tonight, or what's the topic?
Morality, I'm pretty sure.
Morality, okay. I hear a lot of God talk right now, which is cool.
Well, in truth, I was just talking because Travis had to run off, so I felt like I would try to jump in and start to fill the dead air. And
no worries. Yeah, I'm a complete egoist, and what is good is what I deem it to be, even at the expense of other people's health. So that's my meta ethics.
So it's just like purely selfish?
Yep, just whatever Perry wants. And if he doesn't get what he wants, then it's bad.
See, I distinguish, there's two different components to this. I distinguish, like, there is that which gives rise to, like, ethics, and then I say, okay, there's an ethical framework, right? So I might have an ethical framework that I might, whether I say it's partially deontological, it's partially consequential, and like I might have these frameworks that I build, but I know that these are frameworks that I've built. They start with a preference, and the preference starts with a genetic structure, right? So I agree that, like, morality is an evolved compensatory, right? Like we're compelled to want these certain things, but then once we have logic and we have reason, like we create a model. And I think Travis earlier, he was using his, like, axiom is suffering, which is it's like this consequentialist model. I think it's a utilitarian. I guess it sounds like, I'm sorry, I just came in, so I didn't hear him define all of his model, but I think he's following something closer to a utilitarian model, which is something inside of the consequentialist camp. I don't use that model strictly, but it's really good.
And Travis wouldn't, like, call himself any of these categories from which you place whatever ideas onto him. He'd call himself a well-beingist, and that's what I call myself. All jokes aside from the egoism bit that I was doing. But what you're bringing up is an important thing to be able to distinguish descriptivity versus normativity.
Right.
Descriptively, there are moral expressions that we attain through, our hormones, our dopaminergic systems, whatever's going on in our brain. But there is more to morality than just that. There are the prescriptions and a great deal of moral calculus to be done when it's not just our fifis and what we want. There's more to it. There are many things that I wouldn't want to do, but I know that it would be good based on my standards. So descriptive and prescriptive, an important thing to know the difference of and see when it's happening in a conversation.
Yeah, then there's the collective too, and I generally try not to refer to this as morals. I try to refer to it as an ethics. Like this is like the collective of the group, of society in a given society, that they hold these kind of things as standards, and like that we talk about money. We use money, and what is money? I compare morality or ethics to that. So if I say, me and you agree, money only is money because me and you agree to use it, right? It's only money. The piece of paper is not it. And we could use bottle caps to go after fallout, or use shells to use, some tribes could use these objects. It's money as long as we have a consensus that it's money and that we're willing to exchange in it. And ethics inside of a given society, it seems, is something of a consensus. While it might not completely be agreed to, there is some kind of consensus of reciprocation that we'll agree with, and this ethics does exist in the way that that money does. It's working because it's just collaboration between us that we can get along.
I think good ethics on the collective scale is an intersubjective endeavor, and it would be ideal if as many of us can come to some consensus as possible. But there's always going to be the justified or unjustified contrarian,
sure,
who has some other idea, and
in-group, out-group dynamics also.
Yep.
And just the evolution, cultural evolution and stuff. Hello, Perry. I want to say sorry for not responding to you last night. I was dead tired, and the mic I had didn't work, so I went to bed.
Yeah.
Instead.
It took you that long to come up with that dog shit excuse, huh? Gotcha.
It's pretty dog shit, but it's true.
No. I know that you were telepathically telling me that you love me, even though you couldn't talk, and so I heard it. Don't worry.
Deep meditation, almost sleep. In fact,
it
was.
Yes. Our work in the meditation tab has paid off, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
What did you say earlier, Robert? It was like something about like there's a difference between moral frameworks and moral something else.
What gives rise to the compulsory?
Okay, yeah. That. So this is just like kind of a tangent, but it reminds me of emergent algorithms with AI, where you have like a bunch of these simple components, and whenever they're put together, it gives rise to more complicated systems.
Yeah, I mean, I think the drive towards moral behaviors is obviously evolutionarily, it starts with like kinship morality, and then it grows larger in groups, right? That seems quite obvious to me that that's where the impulse comes from, but that is not a framework. That's not a way in which we organize our life around that. That Boo murder kind of what's the
Emotivism.
Yeah, emotivism. Like that's fine and all to say that that's where it comes from, but that's not a framework. We can't structure our lives around it. So that we do have to have some kind of framework to say, well, there's these axioms, and that we have to. So a good axiom is, the one that Travis mentioned earlier. It's great. It's fantastic. It's a good starting point. Especially to operate collectively, because we're not solo individuals. We have to operate as a society. So it's a great starting point.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why that axiom works really well, and it can be universal if understood, is that we know something that's true about all human beings, in that it's almost certainly the case that being more healthy instead of sick, is going to better serve any discernible purposes that a human being would wish to pursue. So whether it's the Christian, the Muslim, the Hindu, the atheist, being healthier instead of sicker is going to give them a better chance at reaching higher and higher levels of resolution in their own higher purposes. So whether it's a moral quest, whether it's a religious purpose serving God or what have you, we know and can demonstrate, and this does, of course, mean that you would have to believe to some degree what cognitive science is telling us, what the biological sciences are telling us. But most people do, most religious people do. Maybe not when it comes to like origins of life, but at least when it comes to what is being used in the hospital, cognitive science, the medicine related to fixing bone fractures and things like this, hunting down tumors. Almost all human beings are going to believe in the validity and soundness of these models and practices. So I argue in my book, my forthcoming book, in my final chapter, that the six Penguin virtues and maxims, including the ethical metric of well-being, doesn't just best serve, secularists who are in search of a discernible, articulable moral standard, but it best serves all human beings to try to move themselves and others with them towards higher levels of health, as opposed to moving them in the direction of sickness or towards death. And I heard some of now there's going to be a tendency to want to pull the conversation of metaethics in the direction of the descriptive. And I heard a little bit of that when I was coming back to the computer. There's a real tendency for people to want to try to lean into like where our genetics comes from or what our genetics happens to be. But I
don't know how much you heard all that.
Yeah, I challenged the room today. Yeah, it just can happen, especially in secular circles when talking about ethics. So my challenge today is to try to stay in the prescriptive zone. Everyone perhaps can have a go at trying to articulate their ethical standards and their meta-ethical stances and allow the room to question them, see how well they apply to the human condition. For example, what if you're to articulate your meta-ethics and your ethical system, your moral metric, and it's something you would want to see carried out in a in a day-to-day situation, but you have no answer for example, like what you would consider to be a righteous war or a righteous position against doing violence against another, then I think you probably haven't covered the more difficult aspects of being a moral conscious creature in this world. So does anyone want to take a stab at articulating their meta-ethics, their moral standard? Maybe give some examples of how you solve moral quandaries and why you find yourself feeling that that's good.
Actually, before stabbing at it, I want to throw something out in the middle first before anyone stabs at anything. And that is, do you consider, because someone earlier was talking about ethics versus morality, are we viewing those as distinct concepts? With ethics meaning something like how a cooperating group of conscious agents with goals negotiate conflicts of interests versus maybe something else?
Well, morality is a branch of ethics, right? And the topic today is secular versus religious ethics. So we can talk about anything related to ethics as a meta category through those different lenses, but I thought we could talk about morality first, the good, bad, right and wrong of the world, as one of the things we can talk about in that greater category. And it's gonna not just call upon, what you think is good and bad, but how you justify it when questioned down to its emergence.